One former baseball GM thinks Kyle Teel is better than Colson Montgomery. Let's discuss why on today's episode of Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan, a contributor for SouthsideShowdown.com, part of the FanSided Network, and also I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, the Athletics' Jim Bowden listed his top 10 AL rookies, and let's discuss if he is wrong when he ranked Kyle Teel ahead of Colson Montgomery in his rookie rankings, and if he was right to leave off Edgar, Quero, and Shane Smith in that top 10 list. Then I want to discuss how Tristan Gray hitting the go-ahead home run last night off of Tyler Alexander is an example of this franchise giving some guys too much time to prove themselves and some not enough. And finally, it is Way Back Wednesday. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So Jim Bowden's top 10 rookies in the Athletic actually isn't as controversial as it may seem. You know, for some, it might be like, oh my gosh, he's got Kyle Teel ahead of Colson Montgomery. Colson Montgomery's hit 18 home runs in 53 games, and he's on his way to being the face of the franchise. And yes, Colson Montgomery's home runs are currently stealing the show. But Kyle Teel has been better overall at the plate than Colson. I mean, it's just facts. Look at the average. Look at the hitting with runners in scoring position. And there's nothing wrong with that being the case right now. And two things can be true at the same time. Colson could turn out to be the superstar because of his ability to crush potentially 30, 40, hey, let's dare to dream 50 home runs. While Kyle Teel, as I've discussed on previous episodes, could become the heart and soul of the team along with catcher Edgar Quero. And the other thing is I would love if Teel and Colson both develop into superstars, much like Nick Kurtz and Jacob Wilson will be for the Athletics, because those guys are also in Bowden's list. And in fact, this should actually be celebrated that the White Sox have two players in his top 10, although Bowden sometimes comes across as, this is why he's a former GM in his stuff in the Athletic. This is why he has never worked in baseball again after getting fired by both the Nationals and the Reds. I mean, he's still proposing trades that are like no modern GM would ever do in their right mind. Ever. Although I will say when I saw Cam Smith and Carlos Narvaez getting listed over Edgar Quero, at first I was taken aback. And then I realized maybe he was right to leave off Quero, but I think he was dead wrong not to list Shane Smith. Now, another reason why this is apropos is Teel homered last night, and Colson had a big RBI double to continue their hot streaks, and they're definitely proven that they can definitely be foundational superstar potential players. I know some are trepid on both. Maybe I'm a little bit higher. That's fine, as long as, again, they continue to get this team out of the abyss and into the light. Now, in terms of why Bowden has Teel ranked 6, this is what he writes. Teel 23 was one of the headline prospects in the package the Red Sox sent to Chicago in the Garrett Crochet trade. So far, he's lived up to expectations and looks to be the White Sox long-term solution at catcher. Defensively, he's a solid pitch framer and executes the game plan well. Offensively, he's been excellent with 132 OPS plus, batting .310 against fastballs, .283 against breaking balls, and .265 against off-speed pitches, which projects well for sustained success at the plate. He possesses strong leadership qualities and has fit in nicely with the White Sox rebuilding plans. And, think about that too. Like, look at that production. He should be ranked ahead of Colson, because when you look at the hit tool, the overall hit tool, Teel is better right now and could potentially be an overall better, hit tool hitter than Colson. Now, here's what he says about Montgomery, who he ranked 10th. Montgomery, 23, had a power surge in August, banging 10 home runs while driving in 20 runs despite hitting just 198. That came after a solid July when he batted .257 with 5 homers and 18 RBIs. He's up to 18 home runs in his first 204 MLB plate appearances. He's played shortstop and third base for Chicago this year, demonstrating well above average range. He brings positive energy to the field, but the big question remains, how much is he going to hit, as he struggled to hit for average in the big leagues and in AAA. Velocity has given him trouble, and he's hit just 212 against fastballs. He's also hit only 143 against off-speed pitches, though he's handled breaking balls well. The left-handed hitter has had the most offensive production come against right-handed pitchers. That Montgomery has settled in as an everyday player for the White Sox this season is remarkable when you consider he was sent back to Chicago's minor league complex in Arizona in late April to decompress and make adjustments to his swing when he was mired in a significant slump in AAA. Now, first of all, I think Colson's got the ability to get better at hitting fastballs because the White Sox have already shown that they can at least improve. Like, shockingly, they can actually help a guy get better in that area. Remember, Miguel Vargas struggled mightily hitting heat. And one of the reasons why they made that adjustment to his swing, not only to revive his career, but to be able to catch up to fastballs a little bit quicker. So there's some tinkering to be done. And I think the choice of his words, hitting for average, is interesting as well. Yes, I mean, I've even advocated for Colson to have a higher average. I think in today's game, it's hit tool that you should be using, or hit profile that Jordan Lazowski used on Sox on 35th on yesterday's show. That means more because remember, hit tool means, can you also get on base? Just get on base to begin with. So if you have, that's one of the reasons why teams go to OPS. Are you doing damage and are you getting on base? Whether it's a walk or a hit, who cares? So while Colson could hit 240, but if he's crushing 30 to 40 home runs and having an 800 OPS because he's got a 500 slugging percentage, you just would like to see then the on-base percentage just be a tick better than where it is right now. And I think that is where his overall value is going to be. Power and being an over 800 OPS guy who can play some good defense. Teel's calling card is going to be Mr. Clutch, Mr. Overall Good. And Colson, you just want to see him just crushing home runs, again, providing that power that has been sorely lacking for years. Now, when I did read this, though, I thought, what about Quero? I mean, he's got a 286, 349, 390 slash line. Why is he not on the list? Especially when Narvaez makes it over him. And the thing that I realized, though, is, oh, wow, Quero's got some ground to make up before you can consider him a top 10 rookie. Because Narvaez has 13 home runs and a 2.8 F4. Where Quero is at 0.4 F4 and 5 home runs. Now, while Quero has the better WRC plus at 108 to Narvaez's 103, the power numbers of double-digit home runs and a 429 slugging percentage actually shows, that Narvaez shows that these are the hurdles Quero needs to clear. Although I don't get how Shane Smith, who made the All-Star team, and yeah, I get it was sort of by default because the White Sox had to send somebody, but he still gets to the All-Star team and he gets left off. And I got to wonder if it was his FIP or was it the F4? Because Smith is currently at 1.4, where Jack Leiter, who was ranked number 3 on Bowden's list, he's at 2 F4. Noah Cameron, number 5 on Bowden's list, is at 1.5. Will Warren is at 2.1, and he was number 7. So I guess the one thing I would just take an exception of is Cam Smith is on the list with his 0.9 F4. And yes, he's been promising, but Quero's got better numbers, and Shane Smith has had more accomplishments, and he's only had just 2 bad months. Otherwise, it's been very good. Well, speaking of taking exceptions, it seems like the White Sox keep making exceptions to give certain guys they are trying to salvage more time, while others they're giving less to. Let's discuss how Tristan Gray hitting a home run off of Tyler Alexander last night is an example of that after the break. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And I keep telling you, FanDuel's traditional money lines, spreads, and over-unders are really fun to play. But if you want to hit it big or at least double or triple your money, play FanDuel's props, parlays, and futures. For example, right now, they got a same-game parlay for tomorrow night's Washington and Green Bay game featuring Josh Jacobs, Deebo Samuel, Jaden Daniels, and Jaden Reed, all scoring an anytime touchdown. It's at plus 34.61 the last time I checked, and if it hits and you put, say, $10 on it, That will pay out $346.21. Say you think Deebo Samuel is going to score the first touchdown. That is at plus 1,200 the last time I checked. So say you put $10 on that and he does score the first touchdown. That pays out $120. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And you've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that actually works. There's so many products out there and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. And that's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just the hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. And I have some hair issues, so you best believe I'm going to try to give Nutrafol a try. And I can feel good about it too, giving them a try, as Nutrafol is NSF certified and backed by peer-reviewed studies. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and you enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com, Nutrafol.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. Again, make sure to hit the like button on today's episode. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. And if you can't catch the show on YouTube, you can get the audio version of the show on places such as Apple or Spotify. So make sure to follow or subscribe to that wherever you get your podcasts. And either way, get your 30-minute fix of Chicago White Sox baseball venting with me and maybe some hope now. Because, hey, I'm getting hopeful. I'm actually liking watching White Sox baseball. And for those that have been with me every day since I started doing this podcast, I took over in April of 2024. It has been a chore sometimes to watch the White Sox play baseball. Last night, it was fun for a while until Tristan Gray got his revenge. And he certainly let the White Sox clubhouse know that maybe they should have given him an actual at-bat or a try after he was rounding third after crushing a no doubt go-ahead home run last night. I mean, that was gone. Crushed it. While I'm not saying that Gray is now going to go on to an all-star career with the Rays, I mean, considering he's 29, but the White Sox maybe should have kicked the tires on him just a bit more than they did, say, Joshua Palacios or Nick Maton. I mean, Tristan Gray, technically there will never be an official record that he was actually on the White Sox roster, other than you're going to have to dig deep into the transactions to find that he was called up for 1 day and 1 day only and then sat on the bench. You know, my buddy Bez from OnTapSportsNet.com, he's tweeted out and he wrote an article about it that I suggested you check out, that he was basically a ghost, that type of stuff. And him also homering off of Tyler Alexander, that's an example of just how this team sticks with certain guys that they found off the scrap heap, or certain prospects that it's like they might be trepid about, where others are like, hey, let's get really excited, like Tim Elko. They stick with certain guys off the scrap heap just a little bit too long, like Joshua Palacios. And maybe on the flip side, they don't stick with them long enough. Like maybe they should have given Tristan Gray a shot. And I still don't know why Tyler Alexander is on this team. And hopefully by the time I hit stop record and post this, he is off the team. I mean, you would love to see him get DFA'd at this point. I don't know why he's on this team anymore. I would rather see anybody else at AAA get a shot than Tyler Alexander, because all he does is give up runs. He's got a 6.50 ERA in August. He had a 6.50 ERA in August, and he gave up runs in 6 of his 9 outings. And he's given up runs in his past 3 outings this month. All he does is give up runs. And he's supposed to be, I get it, he's supposed to be a long reliever. Ideally, although they've used him in high leverage situations, which I don't get why. But all he does is just gives up runs lately. I like to have I like to see my relievers string together scoreless innings. That would be better. And his getting, to the White Sox in an Uber from Milwaukee after they picked him up from the Brewers, that's a nice story. But that's the only thing that's been nice about his story. I mean, he's been bad for the most part. And he's gotten a 4-month run. Yeah, Fraser Ellard makes the opening day roster, struggles, gets hurt, gets sent to AAA. And the only reason he's ever getting another shot right now is the roster's expanded to 28. I mean, he was never heard from again until the September call-ups. Dan Altavilla, he was actually pitching solid at Charlotte, and I get he's a righty, but the team actually released him at one point. And the only reason why they brought him back was because Miguel Castro got injured. They go with these guys where it's like, why are you going with this guy when maybe you should go with that guy? And then why are you giving this guy more time and that guy not enough time? And think about this. Tyler Alexander seems to be getting infinite patience. Fraser Ellard got no patience, no chance to redeem himself. And an injury needed to happen for Altavilla to even show that, hey, I've been salvaged. I've been saved. That type of stuff. Although the only reason why I think Alexander's getting infinite patience is he's a lefty that they can just use to eat up long relief innings because he's set to be a free agent. I mean, there's no reason for him to be on this team next year. There's just none. But hey, they need some guys to eat up some innings. Just let him eat, because they're not going to need his arm next year. So if his arm got hurt at the end, he's gone anyway, that type of stuff. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. Now, Gray, like I said, he was on the 26-man roster for a very brief period of time, gets DFA, then gets traded to Tampa for cash. And I love how Jim Margulis tweeted out of Sox Machine, gets tweeted out for cash in July, and then makes this White Sox pay in September. And, maybe the Sox should have not seen the cash grab. Maybe they should have just given him a shot. Because in this brief sample size with the Rays, he has an 801 OPS. Now, I know he's floundered at other spots, even with the Rays. But this is the year to find some guys off the scrap heap, even to be bridge guys, and they didn't even try. Yet they gave Joshua Palacios 123 at-bats. Nick Maton got 54. And why does this matter? They all hit left-handed. And it became quite evident that Joshua Palacios was probably not going to be the guy to produce and be this scrap heap salvage project. It just wasn't going to happen. And yet they stuck with him. Now, I know that there was injuries in the outfield, but they still stuck with this guy when it was like, Corey Julks, we already know what he does. Give him a shot. And that's the thing. Corey Julks didn't get another opportunity. And then he does, and it's barely anything. Tim Elko gets 67 at-bats. Joshua Palacios got 123 at-bats. Think of that. Though, to be fair, I mean, Bobby Dahlbeck, he got a quick hook, only 7 games. Some relievers, obviously, at the beginning of the season got demoted quickly. But we're getting back into this habit where the club is just giving certain guys run that don't deserve it. And other guys that maybe have earned a run, nothing. Well, it's Wednesday, and this week's Retro Week segment, I wanted to go over a game 35 years ago where 2 light-hitting infielders went yard against Nolan Ryan, and that is after the break. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live, the energy of the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees. It takes all the fun out of it. And that's why I use Gametime, the app that gives you the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. So think about that. Fees are included while you're looking for tickets. That matters because you know your total up front with none of those surprise fees at checkout. How many times you've been, you look for these tickets and you're like, oh, I'm getting a great deal. Then you get to checkout and you're like, how much am I paying in fees? Gametime They give you that right up there, so you know that you're getting a good deal when you're getting ready to check out. And I love zone deals too. Pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. And I love that you can see the exact view of the seat before buying. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDOMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. Again, shout out to all the everydayers. I appreciate your loyalty. Please hit the like button on today's episode. Recommend to your fellow Sox fans or baseball fans, friends, to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox, wherever they get their podcasts, as this show is available on all major podcast platforms. So shout out to the Athletics' John Greenberg for being the inspiration behind this week's Way Back Wednesday segment. He posted on X, formerly Twitter, that Chuck Garfien and Ozzie Guillen were having some fun on the broadcast, looking back at Ozzie's home runs from 2000. And then, Greenberg tweeted out, the game on August 10th, 1990 is probably one of the biggest anomalies, I actually think, in baseball history. Why? Because both him and Craig Grebeck, the little hurt, they went yard on Hall of Famer Nolan Ryan at Old Comiskey. So think about that. Ozzie Guillen, who was definitely not a power hitter, Craig Grebeck, who was 5'5", like my size, both go deep on one of the greatest pitchers of all time. That's something that should have been covered maybe in the Nolan Ryan documentary on Netflix. I didn't see that. I didn't see that part. I don't think Nolan wanted to acknowledge that in his career, because a week later, Chuck Garfien actually tweeted the video. Ryan drills Grebeck when they're down in Texas. I mean, he absolutely nails them. Yet we celebrate, Rangers fans and all baseball fans, we love to celebrate Ryan beating the heck out of Robin Ventura. I think we should be celebrating Craig Grebeck hitting a 3-run homer for his first career home run against Nolan Ryan. All right. Maybe I'm exaggerating here, but it just shows you how random baseball can be when Ozzie, an all-star in his own right in, the late 80s, early 90s, but not because of his power. And then the little hurt, like Craig Grebeck, can take a legend deep. I mean, think about it. Bob Uecker. I think he hit a grand slam off of Sandy Koufax. I mean, it's just random the things that happens in baseball, especially how it was Grebeck's first career dinger. And how many people are going to be able to say that in their lifetime? How many ball players are going to be able to say, you know what, my first career home run came off of Nolan Ryan? And I like how Greenberg shared what Paul Sullivan wrote in the Chicago Tribune that day when the Sox beat the Rangers 5-1. This is a snippet, and he has a screenshot up on X, formerly Twitter. I'm just going to read it, though. The final season of Comiskey Park has been an ongoing celebration of the young and the old. The oldest ballpark in baseball, combined with the Major League's youngest team, have added up to one of the most memorable seasons on the South Side. Perhaps it was only fitting then that a pair of White Sox rookies, pitcher Wayne Edwards and third baseman Craig Grebeck, would team up Friday night to pin the loss on a 43-year-old living legend, Nolan Ryan, in his final performance at Comiskey Park. The left-handed Edwards, who is only 300 wins behind Ryan in his first start, 300-0, posted his first major league win, while the 5'5" Grebeck tagged the Texas fireballer for a 3-run homer, his first in the majors. Not to be outdone in the astonishing Mighty Mike department, Ozzie Guillen followed immediately with another homer. And the other reason why I wanted to revisit it is, I mean, think about it. That game also spoke to the magic that the 1990 team had. And why I'm mentioning the 1990 team is put it in the back of your mind that, hey, maybe the 2026 team could be special like that 1990 team. Now, obviously, they didn't make the playoffs because they were in the same division as the Oakland A's, who were just coming off winning the World Series and had probably one of the most star-studded lineups in baseball. And that's the reason why I'm a fan of the wild card. Just think about that. The White Sox had a better record than the AL East champs Boston Red Sox, but Boston gets to go to the playoffs and the White Sox did not. So that, again, speaks to why you should have a wild card system. And it would be great for the 2026 team to be like, the arrival a year early, much like the 1990 team was. Because that 1990 team arrived, early in a rebuild that was taking place in the late 1980s. But I don't think anybody saw that they would arrive in 1990. I think the thinking was well, okay, we build up this roster. 1991, we're going to open up New Comiskey Park, and now we're going to be competitive. And it came a year early, and it almost sent a historic ballpark out in fashion. And in a way, it did. I mean, I was a kid. My dad took me to a couple of games. I was at the Andy Hawkins, 8 innings, no hit ball where the White Sox still won 4-0 on, I believe it was 2 errors and a couple of walks. I was at that game, and it was just so much fun. And we're starting to see the fun right now, but you would like to see, maybe be like a 2026 season. I mean, a 1990 season happen in 2026. Obviously, a lot of things are going to happen that I don't think will happen. But it just got me thinking, like, man, there could be some parallels here. Think about it. For young folks, you're probably wondering, who the heck is Craig Grebeck? Or maybe you have heard some stories, but you're still like, what? He was like Brooks Baldwin in terms of size. I mean, I think Baldwin's like 5'8", and just having to grind his way to the show. And if Baldwin can carve out an 8.8 B-WAR career with a 252, 342, 358 slash line in the 6 seasons, and it was 8.8 B-WAR career with the White Sox. I'm sorry. Grebeck actually, I believe, finished with an 11.8 B-WAR overall and stays with, I think, Toronto and Florida as well. But in 6 years, 8.8 B-WAR, 252, 342, 358 slash line. I think that would be fine for Baldwin to be in that area, because Grebeck was a solid utility player during those good early 90s teams. Now, Colson, I think, is already on the path to being an all-star like Ozzie was. I just want Colson to be in the same breath as Frank Thomas. I would love that. That would be so amazing for Colson to be in the same breath as Jose Abreu, Frank Thomas, the guys I was talking about a couple episodes ago, with his home run production. And again, it's nothing against Ozzie. He had 3 all-star appearances. He's a legend in his own right in the organization. But production-wise, you want him to be at that Hall of Fame production, that type of stuff, and lap, Ozzie's White Sox career. Well, that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And I'll be back tomorrow with your mailbag questions or comments. Since I didn't get to them on Tuesday, this was the only time Jordan Lazowski was available, was to come on yesterday's show. So I bumped it. So we're still going to do a mailbag segment this week. So make sure, if you want, if you have any questions or comments, make sure to email them to lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com, or you can leave them on X, formerly Twitter, @LockedOnSox, or you can leave them even on the community page. And you can also leave comments about today's discussion there, in all 3 areas, regarding the Sox being, regarding Colson Montgomery and Kyle Teel being top 10 rookies, but Edgar, Quero, and Shane Smith not, according to Jim Bowden. The team giving some guys way too much time to prove themselves and others not enough, and this week's Way Back segment. So have a great day, and I will talk to you tomorrow.